We're so glad you're here. It's an honor to be in your lovely city. I'm going to be kind of tied to this podium here. I like to move around, but we've got 3 different audio sources here for a couple of different purposes. I want to thank Leroy and Rebecca for all their help, and for Aaron and for all the help with the audiovisual stuff, and thank the Department of Commerce guys for making the trip to be here in beautiful Guthrie today. I want to talk primarily about change, because change is something that has to be embraced to get from where we are now to where we want to go. And change is traumatic. I don't know if you know that or not. Most human beings like to find the path of least resistance and kind of get in the rut, stay in the rut, and let the rut guide us. But that's not the way you get things done. It takes change, and change is very hard, especially in some communities that are tied to the past. What refreshes me about the city of Guthrie is the historic impact is here, obviously. So the connection to the past is here, but there is so much emphasis on who we are as a city and where we want to be as a city, that the future's in play as well, and that's big time stuff, and it's very needed. The first person I met from Guthrie many years ago was the lovely Kay Wade. Met her at the state capitol. I believe we're at the capitol in an economic development forum I spoke at, and Kay got me by the ear and drug me out and said, "You need to come up to Guthrie," and that was many years ago. We started our company after 8 years at the city of Owasso. I came from Texas. Don't hold that against me. I grew up in Paris, Texas. Anybody know where Paris is? Paris, I was a cop in Paris, and among other things, and a couple of decade and a half of police work there. And all I knew about Oklahoma was Hugo and Ida Bell. And if that's all you know about Oklahoma, you don't want to come to Oklahoma very much, because we had Hugo Ida Bell come to Paris a lot, and what do? We put them in jail most of the time. So, but once you get up on the Indian Nation and make the trek up to the Tulsa area, things start looking real good. And as like I said before, your city is probably the envy of every small community in Oklahoma, just because of the downtown area and because of what you have done here in the preservation and the vision that not only the city staff has, but the whole community. Because it does take a village. It takes the whole team, and building the team is probably the most important thing. So we're going to go through a presentation here on how to accept and embrace change. And I want to say a couple of things for you just to get started. I'm going to read you some definitions of economic development, and these are all from certified economic developers who've been trained just like Kay and I have, and Leroy and others who've been in this field. Economic development is a nebulous term, and you'll see by these definitions that all of these definitions are very wordy, and when you get to the period at the end, you still really don't know what you're talking about. So let me read a couple of these for you. One gentleman says, economic development is a concerted effort to influence capital investment within a jurisdiction, area, region, etc. And that's a really simple definition. Another gentleman says, expanding the economic capacity of a local area to improve the economic future and to improve the quality of life for everyone. Quality of life is something that is, to me, at the core of progress. If you're not improving the quality of life in your community, about 95% of your efforts are going to be in vain, because people have to have a tangible target to see progress. And quality of life is one of the first things we measure. And it's a nebulous term as well. Quality of life quality of life for my wife is rappelling and doing whitewater rapids. Quality of life for me is staying home and watching golf on TV. You understand what I'm saying? Both of them quality of life, but they're different. So quality of life means a lot of different things as well. But improving the quality of life for everyone is one of the key processes of economic development. It's a process by which public, business, and non-governmental sector partners work collectively to create better conditions for economic growth, employment generation, and wealth creation. Everybody got that? pretty vague. I want to talk to you about economic development in real practical terms. And you guys may have to, is the button, all right, yeah, I need some assistance from the tech guys. I'm from Texas, sorry.
Are you going to play the video?
Yeah, let's play the video first. And then this is a 2-minute video by the gentleman who built your Walmart. I want you to just, you might see a little Guthrie in here.
I originally became aware of Rickey Hayes through Owasso. Rickey's tenure as Secretary of Economic Development at the city of Owasso, and observed from a distance, wasn't involved, but observed the success of the Owasso growth and his involvement in Owasso. But as the story goes, as he was a Baptist preacher, he got into law enforcement, and I joke often about, I'll say, knowing his background in the ministry, I'll say, you know, it's similar to what he's doing now, is he's selling hope. And that's what he's been good at his whole life, truthfully, is selling hope, right? What Retail Attractions does for our company, Tap Development, is act as an interface to help with the communication between ourselves when we go into a community and the city. With Rickey working for cities such as Claremore, where we have a large mixed-use retail development, I'm able to bounce my ideas off of Rickey or the things that we need to accomplish, and Rickey is able to, having a municipal background, being a municipal employee, working in economic development in those city offices before, has the ability to kind of translate what we're saying and what we're trying to do to the municipality. So really, the greatest strength that Rickey has for our company is a communicator. He's a go-between for us to communicate with these cities. And Retail Attractions has the same ability for national retailers. When these national retailers are coming into a community, they have a certain amount of expectations. Rickey has worked with those retailers enough that he knows what those expectations are, and with his municipal background, he's able to translate those to the city employees and the city staff that he works with and kind of make a marriage. Our Southwest Crossroads development in Glenpool, Oklahoma is a prime example of how a partnership with Retail Attractions, the city of Glenpool, and Tap Development can work. For me, business is relationships, and I'm attracted to do business with the people that I can have strong relationships with. And what I've enjoyed about my partnership or my relationship with Rickey over the last several years has been that we think alike. We have common values. Rickey is the kind of guy that goes to bat for something that he believes in, and that's important to me. He's the kind of guy that likes to spend time with his family, and that's important to me. So, the first key ingredient to a good relationship is common values, and me and Rickey, I found common values.
So that developer has made an investment in your community, and he's aware of what's going on here now. He lives in Luther, Oklahoma, which is hit a 9-iron from here almost and get to Luther. Jim is an example of our company is different in a couple of ways from our competitors because, as Leroy knows, and I've worked with Leroy in a couple of cities prior to his arrival in Guthrie, retail growth is strongly relational. All of the retailers know each other, the site selectors know each other, the brokers know each other, and once those relationships were made, it's really a small fishbowl. The retailers kind of move around. Leroy and I both know retail representatives who are working for companies now who 5 years ago were retail site guys for completely different brands, completely different restaurants or businesses, but they kind of stay in the field because it's kind of a relationship-based deal. And what you heard Jim say there, it's people with common values that make changes. And that's what I love about Guthrie. Everybody that I've met that lived here and has roots in this community loves the community. And they want to see it become all it can be. And that's really the priority to me. When we go to cities, my toughest job is getting everybody to pull in the same direction. You would not believe, Jim made a comment there. I was a Baptist pastor. I still am a believer, and but you know, I got into law enforcement because I met a bunch of church people in my 10-year pastorate career that needed to be in jail. So I'm just saying, some of the meanest people in the world go to church. If you hadn't met them yet, I can introduce you to a few. But and I'm really, I mean, the church is just like any other organic organization. It's just as good as the relational values that are the foundation of it. It's the same as city government. So, and let me just say this before we get started. One of the key elements to me, and I'm gonna do some shameless book plugs here in a minute. Even a guy from Texas can write a book. So don't think, if you ever had an inspiration to write a book, write a book. You don't have to be smart to write a book. But I got a book here, and I'm about as many as I could carry. That many people are going to be blessed today with some reading material that'll absolutely change your mind. We brought some materials here for you, so be free to come up here. The only cost to the book, they're $19.95 on Amazon.com. Get it to your door 2 days. Okay, if you want to pay $19.95, go for it. Probably 80 or 90 years from now, if everybody in this room buys a book, I may be able to retire as an author. I'm getting about $100 a month from my book royalties. We've sold about 6,000 of them on Amazon. And if my wife could retire on $100 a month, we'd already be gone. We'd be out. But we can't do that, obviously. But in the book, there's the last chapter of the book talks about a part of your city that is overlooked many times, but to me is really the key in tying the relational values together, and that's your faith community. This room should be full of pastors right now today. Every pastor in your community should be enticed to be a part of what the city's doing, because there is influence and relationships in those churches that need to be shared, and the church needs to pick up the banner. They need to take the city's vision and preach it and be a part of it. So that's all we're going to say. No offerings. I'm not going to take an offering or anything like that, just so you'll know. But if you want to make a donation on the book, that's fine. So that being said, let's start the process here. How to create holistic change. Now, as you know, how many of you have raised daughters? Okay. I got the cutest little 2-year-old granddaughter you've ever seen, little Charlotte Elizabeth. She is blonde-headed, blue-eyed, beautiful little girl. And she's got kind of her grandmother's and her mother's genetics, a little bit diva-ish, a little bit, high-headed, But that's a good thing. She's a born leader. But if you've raised daughters, and I've raised 2, I've got 2 sons, 2 daughters, sometimes between age 13 and 16, and correct me, dads, if I'm wrong, if you've ever raised one, they're really sweet when they're about 1.5 years or 2 years old, but when they get about 15 or 16, you don't turn your back on them because they can cut you. Am I right? Everybody, come on, get an amen here? Yeah. Change is unavoidable. So when you have that little baby and you start pouring your life into it, I promise you that little baby's going to change. And you're going to change. Same thing to be said about married life. Marriage is where the human personality really changes. Right? Come on. Don't be shy. You ladies are looking at me like, yeah. So, let's get going before I get in trouble here. Uh-oh. That's my pointer. That one? There we go. Got it. All right. I read you some definitions of economic development. Let me tell you what it has to contain, in my opinion. We read the definitions. It is multifaceted. It's not just retail growth. It's not Kay's work entirely. Hers is a big part of it. It's not Leroy's vision and work and the team he's building at City Hall. It's more than that. It's multifaceted. The schools are involved. The superintendent of schools is an integral part of any community's growth and economic development. The church community, the faith community is an integral part. The police and the fire and the public safety guys are an integral part. It's all part of one big organism. And it involves always the public and the private sector making an investment in the community. If your community is not investing in itself, you can just hang it up. it's over for you. And one of the things we just spent about 30 minutes at City Hall prior to this meeting, and Leroy passed out document after document after document. Here's what we're dreaming. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're thinking. And so that investment is the key, one of the keys. It always involves the quality of life factor. If it doesn't improve the overall quality of life in Guthrie, Oklahoma, it's not real economic development. It's something else, but it's not economic development. It always involves the creation of public revenue, which is important for communities. And it always involves changing the appearance of the community. It will change the face of your community in some way. If you've been to Owasso, if you came to Owasso in 2000, if you drive through there now, that community doesn't even look the same. It's completely been in Broken Arrow lately? Doesn't even look the same. Been to Bricktown lately? You remember what it used to be? Doesn't even look the same. There are only 4 types, there's actually 5 types of cities. But 4 practical types, and then we'll talk about the 5th type. There's cities that say yes, and I'm going to tell you, I believe with all my heart Guthrie's a yes city. Yes, whatever we have to do, we're willing to change, we're willing to let go of some things and embrace some new things, we're willing to take the past into the future, yes. There's cities that say no. I worked for a few months in a city real close to you, right up the highway from you, called Perry, Oklahoma. You know where Perry is? Perry's a no city. They don't want to change. And let me ask you, who just closed in their city? I wonder what happened. You want to know what happened? Perry people didn't shop at the Perry Walmart. Where'd they shop? Leroy, where'd they shop? Sometimes in Stillwater, but sometimes where? Guthrie, Oklahoma. There's cities that don't care. And if you want to see me privately and ask me if I know cities that say no and cities that don't care, I got a whole list of them. Cities that are on the fence. There's some cities that really want to change, but they just don't know how. And almost always the missing ingredient in those cities is the inability to build consensus. You know what? I'm excited about Guthrie for a number of reasons. One of the reasons I'm excited about it is that when you hired Leroy, the mayor and council have allowed Leroy to begin to assemble a team. It takes a team. It's multidisciplined, gifted. It's multi-visioned. And Leroy's building a team of professionals to move this city forward. And it's a shame, but most cities don't allow a city manager, because of political instability or whatever else reasons, personality conflicts, whatever. Most cities don't allow a city manager enough time to put his roots down and cast his vision. It always takes a vision. One of the reasons Oklahoma has succeeded is Mick Cornett has been there a long time. So it takes some continuity. It takes some roots. And so that's why I'm excited about City Hall. Leroy's building a team. It's obvious. When I first came here and met with Leroy, it was just Leroy. And you come back now, you meet Rebecca. You meet these audiovisual guys. All the public works guys. All these guys they've got new energy and new vision. Now, the 5th type of city is the entitled city. Let me name you one that's close to you. Okay? Starts with an E. I've heard a dozen different developers like Jim Tapp. Jim Tapp is finishing up a big development in Enid right now. I mean, not in Enid. Enid's a good city. I work there too. Edmond, I've heard Jim and a dozen other developers say, I will never put another penny in Edmond. Why? Because it's hard to develop there. The city feels entitled. They will require you to do more to build there than most cities even begin to think about asking you to do. Now, if you live in Edmond and you're hoity-toity and you've got you a nice house and you're retired, that's probably a good attitude to take. But it doesn't work if you're trying to grow and trying to change. Edmond's not going to change. It's going to be like that from now on, unless something catastrophic happens. But there's always a couple of things that go with the entitled city. There's always politics. You see that little word right there? Politics. Did I spell that wrong?
No, that's right.
Okay, politics. There's always bureaucracy, and bureaucracy is always arbitrary, a little bit capricious. Yeah, we know what you did over there, but to do it here, you got to add this, this, and this. There's always a difference of opinion between what the private sector money says about putting money there. You understand what I'm saying? Don't get like that. All right. Now, I apologize for you not being able to see this. This is not the most sunshiny room I've ever been in. It's kind of dark in here, but but the atmosphere's good in it, right? The first thing, coming to reality, seeing where we are. That's what a lot of cities never get to. They're so caught up in kind of what everybody else is doing, they don't really see where they are. And seeing where you are is the first step of change. Then there's imagining where we could be, and this doesn't take the city manager's vision to imagine where you could be. Where could Lazy E be? Somebody some time ago said, you know what? If we build a big arena here and host national level events, we're right in the middle of the country. The whole country will come over. Is that true? And they come, don't they? If you build it, they'll come. That's imagining. And a third grader in Guthrie Elementary School may have a vision. Listen to your kids. Then deciding if we want to change. And change is really, listen, I'm going to get to change in a minute. You say, well, it's easy to change. No, it ain't either. We want to remain the same. It's always easier to stay like we are. Right? And then embracing the process of change. And sometimes it causes conflict. And if you don't believe change causes conflict, I was going to say, with me, sometimes when my grandkids come over to the house, we have a swim spa and they want to get in the water. And I used to scare them when I take my shirt off because my back's kind of hairy. And I just wanted to, anytime I pull off my shirt, there was a change because they got scared of the bear. They didn't want the bear in the water with them or whatever. But embracing the process of change is harder than it realizes, harder than it looks. Here's the 4 progressions of change. First, there's a vision. Vision, there's got to be a dream. Got to be. This is what I was saying. I just heard Leroy articulating on a vision, and it's a big vision. It's not just we're just going to fix a couple of streets and maybe fix a pothole or two. No. He wants to change things. He wants to take this city to where it can be. After the vision is kind of set, if the vision is set right, then leadership arises. And again, leadership is a relational thing as well. Leadership is just not an autocratic deal where the city says, this is what we're going to do. That's why we have elected officials. They represent the constituency. They represent the community. It's the community. Everybody should be involved. It ought to be all relational. Many times it's not, but it ought to be. And then the most important part to me is when you have vision and leadership begins to arise, then one of the first and hardest things of change begins to happen, and that is coalition or consensus begins to form. It either forms here or this is where you start getting the resistance. With me? And then if the vision arises and the leadership arises and takes it by the horns, then the coalition builds and then change begins to happen. All right. This is a quote by Socrates, and we're going to get to the good stuff in just a second. The secret to change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Now, here's the one of the things I want to say to you today. Healthy things grow. If you have a baby and it's in diapers when he's 14, something's wrong, right? If he's not potty trained when he starts first grade, there's going to be problems. Because I don't remember any diapers in my first grade school. And that's been a long time ago. I was having lunch yesterday, and the waiter was talking about how it was trouble for him getting old. And I said, well, I graduated from high school in 1975, back when things were tough. And he said, well, that was 4 years before I was even born. I said, well, don't talk to me about being old then, sucker. Healthy things begin to grow. Healthy cities grow. Healthy things grow. Healthy marriages grow. Healthy kids grow. Healthy businesses grow. Healthy things grow. Right? Now, any farmers in the room? Anybody grew up on a farm? Anybody ever fed cows in 20-degree weather and picked up round? Me too, brother. Cows grow. And if they're healthy, they're gaining weight, aren't they? Absolutely. Growing things change. Always. Now, I'm still a 20-year-old inside this 60-year-old body. And I had to carry these books from City Hall because Leroy wants to walk. He's healthy. And so I had to set the book down on, and I'm so glad y'all put those trash containers, those metal, because I borrowed 3 of them on the way down here to rest, get my breath. Growing things change. Growing marriages change. You know, how many of you would like to have the same income you had when you first got married? We had a naugahyde couch. I still remember it to this day. We had a 2-bedroom wood frame home. I might as well just go ahead and tell you this story because I don't want to hide anything from you. I got married in January of 1980 to this lady right here. We had a little storybook wedding in a little country church. And the first week we were married, she still got up and cooked breakfast for me. Now, let me tell you, things change, okay? But one morning I got up, we didn't have a shower, we just had a bathtub. And I ran me some water, and when I stuck my little toe in the water, it was ice cold. The night before, it'd come up, blue norther had blown in, and it blew my pilot light out on my hot water heater. Anybody ever have that? And you remember you had to push a little rud button down, you stick your candle in there. Well, in my little shotgun home, we had a little stove and a refrigerator. You could set it to kitchen table and wash dishes, if you can get the picture. And so next to the range was the hot water heater closet. And so my wife was cooking. Look at her. She's looking because she still remembers. This is one of the highlights of her married life. And I nearly died. And she still remembers it fondly. One of the things you get in Texas, there's a bunch of trees in Texas, and you get squirrels in places that they shouldn't get. And some of you know where this is going. But I, in my robe, and keep in mind I was already ready to get in the bathtub. Picture this now. I had my little robe on. I got down on my hands and knees between that stove and the cabinet, stuck my little candle in the hole, and held the button down. She's standing back. I went in there and said, I was talking to the dog, get that squirrel. You don't live here for free. This is your job. Get the squirrel out. Finally, we got tennis rackets and, I'm going to just go ahead and tell you the truth. My wife got a tennis racket, chased the squirrel out, because where was I? I was standing on the couch by the dog because I'd already been traumatized. Now, our marriage has changed from then. If a squirrel runs out on me tomorrow, I'll probably, my poor old body I'll just probably croak right there. But I promise you, we've seen a lot of those squirrel episodes in our marriage. And our marriage, I wouldn't want it to be like it used to be. It's changed, right? Cities change. Change brings challenges, doesn't it? Sure it does. It brings expenses. You ever put a kid through college? I got a daughter that's a doctor in Dallas. Another son that's a musician. He went to sound engineering school. Got another daughter that went to Aveda Beauty School to learn how to cut hair. And my son, my youngest son, is a sophomore at Baylor. You ever seen a kid to Baylor? Change brings challenges. Challenges force grabbing the vision and going to work. Now this is where you start losing. This is where you start losing most people. When the change begins to happen and the real work starts. Mayor, this is the challenge. Embracing the work helps build more consensus. When people start joining arm in arm, one of the things I love about our state is when we do have a natural catastrophe, when a tornado hits more, the whole state comes to help, don't they? Absolutely. The fortunate city is the one that can draw the public into the vision and get the public involved and actually linking arms with you and going. You with me? The problem with social media is not that it's get your message out. The problem with social media sometimes is that 2 or 3 knuckleheads can say bad stuff and it appears like everybody's attacking you. It's just 2 or 3 goofballs, usually. Can mess up the whole spirit in the community, can't they? That's what I'm talking about. But the process is where you figure out what is worthy of being part of the outcome. The process is where you identify the hindrances and figure out how to remove them. And the process is where the pathway starts to be clear, and then you start seeing things change. All right. Everybody wants this fruit. But nobody wants to talk about this. This is where we are right now, Leroy. Mayor, this is what we're building right now. This is the underground stuff. This is the stuff that has to be built so the storms can be weathered, so the growth can occur. Every bit of growth this way, it has to be anchored by growth down and under. With me? Now y'all not good. Y'all need to be more like. Y'all need to come in here with me now. Trying to get you to change. Trying to get you to embrace it. So say, well, we will take an offering. I'm serious. We will. We'll pass the plate. All right. We know who lives in Guthrie, and we know who travels through here. We know what's best working for us, and we're starting to figure out what's working against us. Your demographics are good. Your incomes are good. Your base is good, and your growth potential is good. Edmond is growing into Guthrie. Right? Edmond's growing into Oklahoma County. Logan County, I'm sorry. Logan County, you're right. Edmond's growing north. They don't have really anywhere else to grow. All right, shameless book plug. Okay. All right. Here's one of the things I want to talk to you about today. One of the things that, and I'm a retail guy. We started this company in 2007. And again, shows you how smart I am. When you start a retail consulting company in 2007, what happened in 2008? The bottom dropped out, retail stopped, and I used to wonder, sit up in bed in the middle of the night in a cold sweat and wonder, what am I going to do? But I started talking to the private sector. You know how the private sector thinks? They don't think like public sector people. The private sector loves it when the economy starts going this way. Because when the economy starts going what we would call the wrong way, people who know how to make money start doing what? They start making money. Because prices start going down, real estate starts going down. Retail works off this economic cycle, ebb and flow. Where are we at right now? We're in a tumultuous time in retail growth. And there's several things at play. You may not know this, but do you know when there's a hurricane that puts the city of Houston underwater, that it affects lumber prices in Logan County? Did you know that? Yeah. Lumber prices are going up, sheetrock's going up, steel's going up. You know when a hurricane hits Florida, it affects us right here in Guthrie, Oklahoma. What else affects us here? When Amazon buys Whole Foods, it affects us right here in Guthrie, Oklahoma. Retail is changing. Do you know why Barnes & Noble is not building any new stores? It's because to print that book, to haul cases of that book to stores all over the country, costs a lot of money. Amazon's got a big warehouse somewhere, and there's a whole bunch of those books there. And when you order one online, they ship it to you free in 2 days. How do you do that? You get your logistics right. How does Walmart become the biggest retailer in the world? They get their logistics right. They buy right. You ever tried to be a vendor to Walmart? It's one of the toughest things you've ever... I've talked to vendors who've gone to Walmart and presented a product for them to sell. They say it's like going before the Inquisition. Costco, big retailers like Costco. Even Oklahoma liquor laws keep people from investing. Now, we changed that, didn't we? And so you're going to see grocery growth, and we're seeing it right now starting to happen. In fact, a reputable source told me, and I say reputable because I mean reputable because there's some irreputable. A reputable source told me that HEB, do you may know who HEB is? Henry E. Butts Company? They're supposedly in Oklahoma City area right now looking for a distribution center location. What does that mean? If my information's correct, that means that HEB is going to march in our market. Let me tell you a little bit something about HEB. I worked in McAllen, Texas for 2 years. You know where McAllen is? It's a tip of Texas, right down on the border, right on the Rio Grande. 250,000 people. They had 3 HEB stores in a city of 250,000. They had the Walmarts, they had the neighborhood markets, they had the Sam's, they had the Costco's. 3 HEB stores, all 165,000 square feet. That's big if you don't know it. 165,000 square feet grocery store. The least of the 3 was doing nearly $200 million a year in annual sales. Groceries. And so when they start looking for a distribution center in your state, that means something's fixing to happen. And what did we do to precede that? We changed our liquor laws. Why? Why would that mean? Why would liquor law changes mean anything to them? Why would Costco not come to Oklahoma until just in the last couple of years? Because 30% of their revenue is from beer and wine sales. It's not a moral. I'm not saying drink or don't drink. So I'm an ex-Baptist pastor. Here's 3 groups that don't recognize each other. Catholics don't recognize Protestants, and Jews don't recognize Arabians, and 2 Baptist pastors in a liquor store don't recognize each other. Okay. You ever heard that one? That's just a little preacher joke for you. It's not a moral question. It's an economic development question, Leroy. And we got Department of Commerce guys here, and this is one of the most refreshing things I've seen is to have this group, because I've always wanted to get in front of them, and so I got my wish. One of my wishes came true today. And guys, don't let me. I'll really start being nice to you in just a minute. The Department of Commerce, let me just say this, they do an excellent job with the budget they're given. Can I say it that way? Our state is in trouble. Do you know that? We're in trouble in a number of areas. But financially, we're really in trouble. And we don't do a good job helping cities fund themselves, do we, Mayor? In Texas, and we're working, my company right now has, listen, and I'm not, this ain't bragging, and in fact, I'm very humbled to tell you this. Since we started our company, we have worked in 422 cities in 38 states, right out of Owasso. I've worn out an airplane, and I've worked in just about every community in Oklahoma, and still working about 60, and just in Oklahoma. But we're working in Tennessee, Indiana, Illinois, Alabama, Georgia, Virginia, Arkansas, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. Actively working for cities. And what I'm going to tell you is that every other state has 2 forms of revenue for their communities. Ad valorem revenue, which is predictable and very, very stable. And then sales tax as well. Oklahoma cities only get sales tax. And it's at the mercy of the economy. And if you're an unfortunate city like Altus, Oklahoma, ain't nobody going by Altus. You got to be going to Altus to go to Altus. You ain't gonna drive by it. And they're stuck there. They drive to Lawton because of their geography. You're not that way. Look at your geography. It's pretty good. You're right in the center of the state on one of the biggest highways in the country. But I'm telling you, everything works together, and Oklahoma's in trouble. And cities have to take the bull by the horns. You got to start ramping up. We got to start changing things. We got to start creating creative revenue streams. Now, one of the things I want to do is give you a chance to speak and give you a chance to ask Leroy a question. I told you about the book. Come get you a book. It's free. Here's the only cost. Go to Amazon.com. Give me a 5-star. After you read it, give me a 5-star rating. If you give me 3 stars, I'm taking it down. We got a perfect 5-star rating right now. There's a reason for that because I take everything else down. No, I'm just kidding. We've only got 5-star ratings so far. I brought these books. And if you don't get one today, pick up one of my cards and email me, and we'll mail you one. Okay? I want you to have one. It's interesting reading because it's stuff you won't read anywhere else. And when the publisher published, she said, we publish books all over the place about government, federal government, state government. She said, we've never read anything like this because it talks about grassroots politics. And where's that at, Mayor? It's right here in the city. All right, I think we're done. Now, let me wrap everything up. Your future's bright. The consensus, the working together, has to be continually energized and amplified and encouraged. Because what happens when stuff starts changing, pressure starts building. And pressure starts weighing down everything. If you're not careful, political infighting begins to happen. And you guys have seen that. You know what happens when everybody's not pulling in the same direction. Nothing gets done. And that's in a marriage, that's in raising kids, that's schools, that's churches, that's everything. You get a bad teacher, can ruin a whole school district. One. You get a bad husband, ruin the whole family. You get a rebellious teenager, can create chaos for the whole family. You get a bad council member, create chaos for the whole community. And let me just say this. All of you should run for city council at one point in your life, because being the mayor or being the city manager is like being a fire hydrant in a town full of dogs. If there's a fire, you're going to be the hero because you're going to put the fire out. But you're going to get sprayed every day by somebody. And I know that I've seen Leroy get sprayed because somebody didn't get their garbage picked up, or somebody didn't get this, or somebody didn't get that. So it's not a fun job. But the rewards of doing public service, there's nothing like it anywhere. I commend you for being here. Thank you for being here. I hope this helps you because, listen, your city's changing. And it's not all going to be pleasant. You're going to have to deal with a little bit of probably, we shouldn't have done it this way, or we should have done it another way. You just got to catch the vision and work real hard to make it happen. We're recruiting retail for you. We got interest. There's interest. We've got restaurant interest. We've got soft goods interest. We've got a number of retailers. You heard Jim Tapp. Jim Tapp's the guy that built your Walmart here. They still have an interest here in the community. The highway traffic. There's millions of dollars going right by your city every day. And getting that traffic to stop is mandatory for the future. So, Leroy, I'm going to anything you want to say, or Mayor, anything you want to say? Anybody have a question? We're here to 1:30, and are we here to 1:30 or 1? To 1, right? Okay. We got about 15 minutes.
Well, I always let the mayor know first.
Absolutely.
Well, I think one of the enlightening things is something that an individual in this room really was a spark plug for, and that's creating the relationship with the churches and the faith. And Hetty brought that to us, not alone, but I think that was an inspiration
Right.
to me, your statement.
Right.
And we need to have a ministerial alliance.
Right.
We've got a strong ministerial alliance, but we need to build maybe a little bit more of that relationship. That was a target for me to take home and put into effect.
That's the last chapter in the book.
I'll go right to the last chapter. And those are the kinds of things that you bring, that kind of inspiration point. I think all of you know that we have a contract to facilitate our economic development and our growth and our change. And it is tough. The consensus is the critical element. Well, the relationship building is the critical element.
Right.
And that leads to the consensus. And I think with the team that we have, and we just added 3 more to our team Guthrie, that came from
Absolutely.
the state chamber. I think with our team here, we have the relationship builders to make it happen. And I'm just really, really pleased and proud to be part of that team. Leroy, you're next.
Well, I think clearly everybody needs to understand, even after we adopt the vision and start moving forward, there are going to be bumps in the road. And there will be days that we will wonder why we're in it or who we're working with. But the team started forming prior to my arrival 9 months ago. I mean, the school district has been a leader in changing the attitude towards the school district and improving their facilities. Chamber of Commerce, they had a dip and they're coming back strong. Our hospital, we've got a lot of key players that are willing to step up and work together. And when there is a bump in the road, rather than take a detour, figure out how to get over that bump and move forward. And that what excites me is we got players here that understand that it's not a smooth road, but once we decide our vision and where we're going to go, that's the road that we got to traverse and go down, and we got to do it together, and we need buy-in from the community. And if we're divided, the community sure not going to buy into it.
I'd like to just, as Mary pointed out, the church, I'll just tell you a real quick story. When I got to Owasso, the city of Owasso was doing something I'd never seen done in a public setting before. We had council meetings on the 1st and the 3rd weeks of the month on Tuesday. The first Tuesday of every month, we had what we called a pastor's meeting at City Hall. At 7 o'clock, we invited in writing and made phone calls so everybody wouldn't feel left out. We had 57 churches in Owasso at the time when I got there. And because of my history and my ministerial education, one of my degrees is from seminary, and we invited all the pastors to come to City Hall, and the city manager and I would I bought donuts and coffee. You want to get a bunch of, same thing with police officers. You get some donuts, the police will show up. You get a bunch of donuts, some pastors will show up too. We'd have anywhere from 15 to 20 to 40 or 50 pastors. And the city manager said, here's what we're doing. We've got this project, we've got public works project. And he would say, look, we've got some morale problems with our public works department, or we're negotiating a new contract with our fire and police department. And he would ask them specifically, when you do your prayers, please pray for us, lift us up. And I would say, here's what economic development projects we've got. And so, like I said, when I got to Owasso, my job, my economic development board said, your scope of work is to find restaurants. That's what they told me. Go get us some restaurants. We had 4 retailers that were doing crazy sales, but the restaurants didn't come. I worked a whole year and didn't get one restaurant to come. And so I was feeling neglected. I went off to San Antonio to a conference, and at that conference, a gentleman came up to me, and he said, listen, you're doing it all wrong. He said, don't worry about the restaurants. He said, restaurants are not matrix breakers. They are followers. Restaurants come in after. He said, build houses, recruit retail. When the retail comes, the restaurants will come sit right in front of them. And so we started thinking, who do we need? Who could we get? And so we did some surveys, and the community said, we need a Target. Well, I worked on Target for a year and a half, 18 months, and Target told me no, every way you can get told no. And let me tell you how tenacious I was. I called 3 times a week. I either mailed or FedExed Owasso propaganda to Target in Minneapolis once a week for a year and a half. And somewhere around the year and a half mark, we had a pastor's meeting. And I told the pastors, listen, look, I'm not asking for you guys to pray for a miracle with Target. I'm just not talking to the right guy, evidently. I'm getting a no guy. I need a yes guy. And they prayed specifically that a door would open and that the trigger puller at Target would get a hold of me. And this stuff is too cool to make up. I can't make this up. The next week, a guy named Dean Zermley called me, and he was the VP of corporate real estate for Target. And he called me, and this is what he said. Who are you? He said, I've been seeing your card every week for a year and a half. He said, my 8 real estate guys hate your guts. He said, you have dogged them. He said, in my mind, he said, you're like a chihuahua. And when we walk by, you just start gnawing on our leg. And I said, listen, I know that Owasso is a Target community. We've got a Walmart here, and the Walmart's doing $135 million a year. But I said, people are leaving Owasso every day to drive to Tulsa to go to Target. And I said, if you'll come down here and let me show you, I will never send you another FedEx. And he said, I tell you what, this was right after the retail convention in May, so sometime May or June of 2002. He said, I'm going to be there right before Labor Day, and he said, I will give you 1 hour. You pick me up at the airport, you drive me, you have me for 1 hour. If you want to take me to lunch, if you want me to drive around the city, you got me for 1 hour, and then you got to take me back to the airport. And I agreed to do that. I went and picked him up. Now, I was driving an old police car. Still, if you got in the back seat, couldn't get out. And so he got in, and I drove him to 21st and Garnett. You know where 21st and Garnett is in Tulsa? Do you know what happened? There used to be a big mall there called Eastland Mall. And something happened in the demographics in that community. It went from Anglo to Hispanic in about 3 years. And there's nothing wrong with Hispanic. There's nothing wrong with Anglo. The demographic changed. And the mall tenants started bailing out because their shoppers had left. And the Hispanic people were shopping at Mercados and other Hispanic retailers in Tulsa because it's their culture to support their own, and they weren't going to Target. And I took Mr. Zermley straight, and there was a Target next to this mall. I pulled up in the parking lot, parked my car, put my lights on bright, still was daylight, but I was just for emphasis. Right on that Target building, I said, listen, I'm not asking you to build a new store in Owasso. I said, this store right here is losing money. I know it's losing money. And he wouldn't acknowledge, he wouldn't confirm or deny that. I said, you know it too. I said, close this store right here and put it in this new shopping center in Owasso. And I said, you'll do the same kind of volumes you're doing in Tulsa. And guys, you ever been fishing? You ever been fishing, you throw a topwater out late in the afternoon and you twitch it a couple times, you see the water swirl. What's fixing to happen? You fixing to get your arm broke, right? I saw that light come on in his eye. And so I dropped him back off at the airport, went back to City Hall, went to my office. Well, here comes the city manager in. How'd he go? What do you think about our site? I said, I didn't take him. I didn't even bring him to Owasso. City manager says, well, I hope you've enjoyed your time here. I said, no. I said, I pitched the spinnerbait out there, and he bit. And I said, he don't even know he's hooked yet. And so that was in August, Labor Day-ish. And the Black Friday, Friday after Thanksgiving, 2002, I get a phone call from Mr. Zermley. And he said, Mr. Hayes, how are you? And I said, he said, I just wanted to give you an early Christmas present. He said, we'll start our store in the spring. Now, told you all that to tell you this. When that Target came, I worked on them a year and a half, right? The other 62 retailers that followed Target to Owasso, we worked less than a year on all 62 of them because they followed them, just like ducks following their mom. And then the restaurants started coming everywhere. We got the Cracker Barrel. We got the Olive Garden. We got the Chick-fil-A. We got the Logan's Steakhouse. We got them all. They're all there. We got the Pier 1s and I made a mistake one time. I didn't know what Lane Bryant was. Y'all know what Lane Bryant is? I didn't know what Lane Bryant was. I thought Lane Bryant was just a women's clothing store. And it is, but you better be careful when you go into a room full of women and start saying, girls, you're going to love me. I got y'all a Lane Bryant. So I did that in a staff meeting one day at City Hall, and our IT director pulled her glasses down on her nose, and she said, are you directing that at me? And I said, yeah, aren't you happy? She said, no, I'm not happy that you said that. And evidently, Lane Bryant's for big girls, large girls. I didn't know what it was. I thought I did a good thing. But we even got Lane Bryant. But they're all there now. Best Buy, they're all there. And the reason they're all there now is because, just like you, we had potential and we didn't give up. Leroy won't give up. I know him. He won't give up. And he won't let me slack because he is, Leroy, I'm just going to say it in a nice way. He's thumped me a couple of times. If I don't get back to him when I'm supposed to, or if I don't do something he asked me to do, he will remind me who's writing the checks. So we're working real hard for you. You got potential. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, go ahead.
Just one question. You've worked in several different communities.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing our growth in what you're looking at as out by I-35, or?
Most of the guys I'm talking to, most of the national guys, the national brands, especially the publicly traded ones. Okay, that's a two-part question. So first part of that answer is they want to be where the visibility and the access is easy, and the visibility, access, and synergy. So you're going to have people that want to be on 35 out by where the hospitality uses are and out by where that part of the city is, because that's where the money consumer traffic, travel traffic from Wichita to Dallas, it's wearing the highway out. The other retailers will want to be somewhere in the Walmart area just because of the Walmart synergy. Guthrie's right on that's the building houses to me. My exhortation to this body today, especially to the faith community, I would be preaching loud and clear that Guthrie, Oklahoma is the best city in Oklahoma to raise a family in. And I would send that message to Oklahoma City. I'd send that message to Stillwater and to every other conglomeration of young adults who are fixing to get out of college and move somewhere. I'd be preaching that. Guthrie, Oklahoma is centrally located. We've got the I-35 corridor, and we're the best place in Oklahoma to build a house and raise a family. And whatever the city can do expedite that. They can run sewer lines, they can run water lines, they can do special things with permitting and other incentives to get those houses going, because there's nothing that lights the retail community up like rooftops. I mean, that's what are they after? They're after a profit, and they're after people. And so they see the highway, but we need to build. The other thing is, in your population size, what we see in populations this size is that everybody knows the difference between corporate retail doors and franchise retail doors. Most of the time in the hot growing areas, who wants to build those stores? Corporate. They give the franchise markets to these smaller markets. Now there's a difference between a corporate store and a franchise guy, especially if you're the franchise guy, because corporate can afford to miss a site every now and then. You know, you can put a McDonald's on a B or C site and the thing will still make money like, you know, a casino. But if a franchise guy and he misses a site, where's that money coming from? It's coming right out of his pocket. Corporate, Taco Bueno, they got 200 corporate stores. If they miss one, it ain't no big deal to them. But you let a franchise guy that owns 4 Taco Buenos build here, if he misses it and he doesn't hit his sales, he's just, it may be enough to sink him. So what we're running into is some of the franchise guys think the market's too little. The corporate guys see it, but the franchise guys are the guys we really need to be after, because you're still, until we start looking more like Edmond in terms of the rooftops. And I don't mean you have to build it. I don't believe you have to be 100,000. I just mean houses coming up. If you want to excite the retailers, let Leroy send his video crew out and build it. When you get a subdivision platted and see those rooftops going good, that's if you send that video to me, I can get the retailers' attention. Look what's happening in Guthrie. We're building new homes. So that's the difference. Now the thing about your location, and let me say this a real kind way. In Tulsa, there's 2 million square feet of every retailer under the sun at a place called Tulsa Hills. It's on Highway 75, just south of downtown Tulsa, 61st, 71st, 81st Street and 75. Everybody know where that is? So suburbs like Sapulpa, Sand Springs, Glenpool, Jinx, what's happening to those towns? You can't get a retailer to look at them because 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles from them, everybody's already sitting there right on the highway. City of Tulsa strategically put $23 million in a TIF to build that shopping center. Why would they do that? To steal sales tax revenue from those suburbs. And I don't mean steal in a bad way, but that's what big cities can do. And I'm telling you, if I was Edmond don't care. But if I was Edmond, if I was some way in leadership in Edmond, and I wanted to protect Edmond, I'd be building retail as close to Guthrie as I could get. That's what I'm saying. Yes, ma'am.
What is your prediction on the explosion on the west side of town, west side of Richmond?
Leroy was just talking about that. The west side, now, and let me make sure I'm not a hometown boy. That's the west side's where the Mumford concert. That's the west side. Yeah. Okay. I think that's one of the best things you can do, because it'll open you up. I know there's a lot of small communities west of you. You got. I work for Piedmont as well, and let me tell you what Piedmont's dilemma is. They're building 200 homes a year in Piedmont, but the retail corridor is down on Highway 3, just outside of Piedmont city limits, and you can't get a retailer to go up to Edmond Road or to Piedmont Road, because all the synergy's down there, and they want to be close to what? To the urban area. Well, you're separated far enough. It's like Owasso. One of the reasons we could do that retail is because we're 17 miles from Tulsa retail. And so we built it up there in cities like Claremore and Skytook and Collinsville, all those cities. They have to come, and even Coffeyville, Kansas, southeast Kansas, coming to Tulsa has to come right down Owasso. And so that's how I preached Owasso, was just like McKinney. I grew up in Paris, Texas. What did I use for a comparison? McKinney and Rockwall. You ever seen those cities? Rockwall was a dirt clod hole in the wall with just some truck stops until somebody built a church. And the church blew up, and the next thing you know, they got 100,000 people there. They started building houses. And then every retailer in the world's down there now. Same things in McKinney. Used to, you could go to Sherman, drive to Dallas, you'd have an hour of country. And it ain't now. It's just all retail, all the way from Sherman to Dallas. It's amazing. I think the west side, opening any access you open that'll bring consumers to the city is a good thing to me. Let me say one more thing. It's just an idea, and I don't want to drop a bomb on you. But this morning I had a phone call that was very interesting, and I thought, well, I need to share that. Let me get my notes so I won't be lying to you. Let me compare Edmond and Broken Arrow. economics. Broken Arrow has more people now than Edmond. Okay? It's fact. The city of Edmond has $87 million in unrestricted reserves. Unrestricted. 87 million. Drawing interest. Their net worth above their liabilities as a city is $600 million. Okay? Broken Arrow, their net worth, bigger population, same type city, urban first ring suburb. Broken Arrow is net worth at $271 million, and they have $30 million in unrestricted funds. You know the difference in those two cities. Leroy, what is it? City of Edmonds owns its own electric utility. Now, I work for GRDA. That they pay me to recruit retail to their customer cities. Stillwater's the far west as they go. Okay? Stillwater's got like $250 million in unrestricted reserves. But just to compare, let me just throw this little nugget that got through at me this morning. This doesn't have anything to do with you, but I'm just saying, we talk about revenue. The city of Collinsville, population 4,000, is literally north of Wausau. Literally, they're on the other side of our north city limits. Okay? You're not going to believe this. Owasso has $1.7 million in unrestricted reserves. The city of Collinsville has nearly 15 million. What's the difference? Collinsville owns what? They own their own electric utility. Now this was not an electric city. This was a franchise city manager, a PSO city manager, telling me this. And he said, I don't know what we're going to do next year. Claremore, who I work for through GRDA, listen to this, last December swept $12.5 million from their electric utility over to the general fund. Just swept it over. What would $12.5 million do in Guthrie? Oh my God, you could fix everything. You could fix your parks. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm just saying. I'm not saying that's the thing to do. But these other cities have made decisions like that, and I'm sure everybody in the city wasn't for, at the time those electric utilities were bought. I'm sure there was some conflict, but that's an example of something that's happened in Oklahoma. And because we don't get ad valorem taxes, cities are they're having to think outside the box for revenue streams. So be open. And I'm not saying I'm not a pro-electric. I don't know, because I'm thinking in my mind I'm kind of a conservative guy. I think about what could happen if you own your electric. What if a tornado comes through and wiped your whole electric infrastructure out? If it's PSO, what are you going to do? Call PSO. Get up here and get us fixed. What if it's you, if you own it? Oh my God. I don't know what we're going to do. But that's the difference in Oklahoma. There's stuff that we've got to look at, and we've got to pay our teachers too. We're not going to have any school teachers. Leroy, come close us, would you?
Well, we appreciate the good job you're doing.
Thank you.
Recruiting. I'm going to ask Dennis about the ministry today. We'll ask them to pray for us, because we do have you working for us.
we need. Pastor, say a good one for us. Close us out, brother, would you?
Okay. I think the key, though, is the vision and everybody working together towards that.
Thanks for having us. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What do you want us to do?
That was so shocking to me. That was so shocking to me. Wow. I mean, I just got this call this morning. And I had no idea. And I work for GRA as a consultant. I had no idea. And I don't think Edmond's not a GRDA city, are they? I think what they get, BSO or something, OMPA or something.
Yeah.
OMPA. But I don't, that was just shocking. Those numbers were just shocking. what I want you to do is keep doing what you're doing. Keep the lazy E drawing people from Dallas, bringing them money here and spending it. Keep the hotels here for get the traffic on the highway. Get the schools in the best shape they can be. And advertise, preach it. Come raise your family and go. Yes, sir.
So how long did it take to build this utility up? When did they make this decision?
That's way over my, that's some smart guy. I don't know. It's years. Yeah. I've seen cities, I worked in Enid for 6 years. Enid's tried to do it 2 or 3 times, and it's always failed. It's got to be, does it have to be voted on, Leroy? I can't see him. Does it have to be voted on? If you wanted to buy your electric utility, it'd be a vote of the people, right?
It's extremely tough to get into electric utility because of the size of the investment.
Exactly. And you don't have if you had that money, you'd use it on something else, probably. Yeah.
There's a lot of cities that used to own their electric utility.
That don't? Right. Right. We see it. We see a lot of retail going to the old GRDA cities because those cities can, just like a grocery store. If you've got 36 freezer cabinets, they spin electric meter, and a discount of 8 to 10 cents a kilowatt hour doesn't mean anything to me and you, but to a grocery store it could be 150, 200,000 a year. So they can do things that other cities can't do. So we've seen that part of it. It's been an honor to be here. Wendy, thank you for helping me. She's the best part of us, I promise you. It surely ain't me. Pastor, would you bless us?
We'll bow our heads. Father, we just thank you for this great opportunity just to learn about how we can continue to grow this great community. We thank you for leadership that has the best interest for the people. We thank you for wisdom on how to continue to move forward. And we thank you for people choosing Guthrie to make this the place where they raise their family. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.